Hello, everybody. My name is Casey Miles, and I am coming to you from the planet of I Overcommitted Myself, which is why I'm not there in person. My presentation today is called Kinship, Collaboration, and Consent, the Queer Critical Research Practices of the Gender Project. You can also find me on Twitter at SoulSmiles, so feel free to tweet at me during this presentation. However, I'm on an airplane and I won't be able to look at it until I land. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Gender Project, and then I'm going to situate it theoretically and methodologically and talk more about the queer critical research practices. And then I'm going to show you some video clips from the Gender Project which put these practices into practice. The Gender Project is a short documentary series that I have been working on for a while, since 2008 really. The goal of the Gender Project is to tell stories about gender and sexuality and the ways that our gender and sexual identities intersect with lots of other identities, from race and socioeconomic status and ethnicity and disability. Academically, the Gender Project is queer documentary filmmaking, video composing, queer methodology, queer multimodality. And what I found with doing this is that there are queer cultural practices that we can turn to inform our research and our teaching. And that's where I came up with these queer research practices. So first, a little bit about queer filmmaking, which has a pretty rich and deep history of storytelling by queer people for queer people. Noted queer film scholar Bieber B. Rich writes about queer filmmaking. Its qualities were those of early independent film, underrepresented communities, low-budget, rough-hewn production, characters who appeared in daily life but never yet in movies. A generation poured its heart and soul, shock and anger into modes of representation capable of spinning new styles out of old and new genres out of those that had worn out. So there were specific moves that queer filmmakers were making in queer films. This is what leads me to an understanding of the techne or queer techne of filmmaking. I define techne using Susan de la Grange understanding, that techne is situated, mobile, and ethical processes of making and thinking and remaking, meaning that techne occurs through practice. And queer techne as discovering the self over and over and over again. And again, we understand techne through practice. So if we take de la Grange's understanding and we take queer techne from Jonathan Alexander and Jackie Rhodes, we get this mashup of techne and queer filmmaking, which is what I use to sort of draw on these queer cultural practices to inform research practices.
The language of our discipline, this is a multimodal writing technology drawing on image, text, and sound in the making and remaking of queer representations, or the documenting of queer existence and survival.
So the three queer cultural practices that I leaned on to understand research and researching with people were queer kinship, queer collaboration, and queer consent. When it came time to recruit participants for the Gender Project, I started with the people that I already knew, my queer chosen family. These are the people that I don't have to explain my queerness to. Elizabeth Freeman writes on queer kinship. Its meanings and functions draw from a repertoire of understandings about the body, from a set of strategies oriented around the body's limitations and possibilities. So here, if we think about techne as practice, and we think about queerness as a practice, there are these queer cultural practices that queer people have been doing to survive, to make family, to communicate, to form community, and sometimes to cause a little trouble. And another queer cultural practice that I turned to was informed collaboration for the Gender Project. I needed to collaborate with the participant in the telling of their own story. I needed to give them more control, and I needed to have less control. There's something more honest about these representations because the participant was in charge of it. So I needed a model for this collaboration, and I turned to feminist and lesbian collectives of the 70s and 80s. The Combahee River Collective describes collective organizing this way. We believe in collective process and a non-hierarchical distribution of power within our own group and in our vision of a revolutionary society. We are committed to a continual examination of our politics as they develop through criticism and self-criticism as essential aspect of our practice. So here again, queer collective organizing is a practice, bringing in techne again. And then collaborating with my queer kin needed some type of communication framework. Yes, we were friends, but we needed a practice for talking to each other about perhaps difficult things. And how were they going to be able to say no when they wanted to? To understand queer consent, I turned to Kathleen Livingston's understanding of consent as queer community-based rhetoric. which he defines as a set of practices, or how people use our available languages, our bodies, our power, privilege, and desires in negotiations about relationships. So again, consent is understood through practice. Okay, so the first clip I'm going to show you is from Shine Bright Butch Dyke, which I filmed with my very best friend Quinn. So that's where the kinship comes in. Another butch, Taurus, feminist, everybody should have one in their life. What the collaboration looked like with Quinn was we went back and forth and had lots of conversations about filming locations and ideas for B-roll. One of the clips I'm going to show you now is from the gym. And this was Quinn's idea to film at the gym. And what I added to this was this voyeuristic gaze, which is what it feels like to be in the butch body. And in terms of consent with Shine Bright Butch Dyke, Quinn basically said everything's a yes until she specified a no. So we ran with that, and this is what we made.
Is that a woman? Yes, it is. Your brain is confused. Gender, I don't understand. I am a butch. What does it mean? That is my brain. That is your brain. I'm not understanding that I am a woman. I am a woman. Not a man. None of that crap. None of that man crap. None of that man crap. I'm a woman. What?
And the last clip I have to show you is from Trans People Do Trans Things with Eric. We knew each other because we were both queer grad students at Michigan State, and we went to the same yoga studio and started up conversations, and that led me to ask him to participate in this project. And collaboration with Eric was, again, we did lots of conversation, and I didn't go into these films knowing what I wanted to produce. I really wanted that to emerge in the conversation with each participant. He also wore a purple tutu that lights up, all Eric, and I was like, yes, please, more purple tutus that light up. We need them in this world. And then the reading scene, we kept playing with what it feels like to be read in public. And so he wanted to play with this idea of reading. And so he came up with wearing this outfit and these crazy glasses and reading very provocative trans books. And consent with Eric was ongoing. So every time I had a new draft, I would show it to him and he would give me feedback on it. Anytime I showed it to anyone else, my dissertation advisor, my committee, my writing group, I asked permission.
When a reading of my gender happens, oh, it's the genderqueer person. When a reading of my gender happens, it's almost always wrong. It's almost always wrong. It's almost always wrong. It's almost always wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. At least I think very much about having a very much a failed masculinity. But I sort of am failing at masculinity, sort of on purpose. Like I wanted to fail because it's a flawed project from the get-go.
So now for the big conclusions and big implications. So I think that what queer critical research practices challenge us is to reconsider the contributions that participants can make in our research. It's important that they're not just participants, and that participant is something that is active. I also think that queer filmmaking can challenge our scholarship genres and research methods. I think there's a lot to be looked at here. And the big questions I've come away with, and something that I'm actively working on now and trying to implement into my classes, is thinking about the ways that queer collaboration, especially looking at collectives, lesbian feminist collectives, how can we teach that to students as a skill? I just taught a senior seminar where students were working on job materials, and across the board, all job ads asked for teamwork and you to be able to demonstrate that you know how to collaborate in a group of people and you know how to work with other people. And my students hate group work. I'm really interested in what queer collaboration, following a model of lesbian feminist collectives, can teach students and teach me about working with other people as a job skill. And so the big pie in the sky question is all teaching and all research and all scholarship collaborative. I'll leave you with that. It must have been